Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. It's day 10 of the journey, and this is a mid afternoon recording, thus, the good afternoon. The sessions themselves were completed earlier today, which already puts us in a slightly different position than yesterday. For those watching yesterday or not watching, yesterday was a bit compressed. Time got tight, and I had to push to get everything done before midnight, which made it over the finish line before midnight, and that was a good thing. Today there was more space to actually observe what was happening rather than just get through it. So that much said, we are still very much in a phase where things are not quite settled down. And I think that's important to keep reiterating because we're in week 2, and that doesn't mean anything is actually fully locked in yet. If anything, it means I'm starting to see more clearly what isn't stable and what I like and what I want to embellish and change. And I have to be careful because I have to remember the sessions that I do outside the YouTube channel is my focus. So I have to be careful not to suddenly hyperfixate on the videos. I'm going to put effort into them, but I need to put more effort, or at least keep my effort high on the study of a cappella. Anyway, let me get to the sessions for today. We started today's primary was Boulevard. And going in, there was already a bit of a question mark. I had to talk a bit in the morning, but as a result, everything felt lower, heavier. The system had come online for the biggest bass notes, but hadn't really opened up for the top of the register notes. And that's great for Be Prepared, but I'm starting today with Boulevard, and that's a piece that moves very quickly into the C4 range and above. So the warm up process behaved in a way that's becoming more predictable. The early takes felt like a cold engine that wasn't quite up to speed because my onset wasn't clean. Any kind of coordination above C4 was inconsistent, and just in general, things felt disconnected in the early takes. But instead of trying to correct what wasn't working, I figured just let the car warm up. Revving the engine is really not going to do much. So please don't kick the tires on me. That might hurt. Instead of trying to correct, let the engine warm up. As the takes progressed, the block 1, which is sections 1 and 2, really stabilized today. Tone was getting much more consistent. Support felt more reliable, and the phrase continuity that actually started to lock in and hold. So everything is becoming more dependable once it's engaged. The real work again is block 2, which is section 3, that first chorus. Yesterday, the focus was on onset, setting the phrase cleanly. Today, what slowly became clear is that the issue starts even earlier than that. It's not just how the phrase begins, it's how I'm approaching the phrase structurally. What I was doing without realizing it was treating the pre-chorus and the chorus as separate events. Pre-chorus stops. Then I get ready and I prepare myself, and then the chorus begins. And for those who aren't necessarily following Boulevard of Broken Dreams as arranged by the bass gang, the pre-chorus is I walk alone, I walk and that starts on the C4. Then we go into the four lines of the chorus, which all begin on an F4, if I remember correctly. I think it's F4 D sharp 4, something like that. That break that happens between the pre-chorus and the chorus, it interrupts my system. And I try to think about this as continuous motion. In other words, if I were to run the phrases together, it's not a break. It is like a extended half rest. Need to hold on to the connection and just consider that that next note is just continuing up. That way I'm not unlocking and relocking. So I don't want to arrive at the chorus. I want to be already moving when I get to it. And what happened was the F4 started to show up a little more reliably. It was not perfect. It wasn't consistently locked, and one of the side effects was that if I wiped out on an F4, I backpedaled and stopped trying for the F4, or stopped thinking about the F4 and just let my voice go flat, hit a D or an E or something lower, or talk through it. Now, the reason behind that was that it would be so easy to now focus on the F4 in the other lines. And as I've mentioned several times, one of the things I've gotten out of this is the less you try and the more you simply let happen, the better things work. Well, the first F4 kind of fouls out, so for the rest of the chorus, I back away because I don't want to get through it by using the wrong mechanism to get there, because that's just going to teach me bad habits. So, stepped away from it. But I did hit the F4 during one or two of the takes, maybe one or two times out of the four. But it's slowly becoming more accessible. I'm not forcing it. I'm not targeting for the note. I'm just going, there's the note. And when I'm relaxed and rested and in bed on my back, I really like running those ooh slides from about a C3 up, because that way I can continue to feel what is happening in my system. And I can just say, I'm going to hit the note, boom. And typically in the evenings I do. So, really the important things you get from that, it's not my range. I can't say that note is not in my range. Having sung it in a mix, in a warm-up, that note is in my range. So it's also not the capability of doing it, it's how my system is working. Whether it's fully engaged, whether it's fully relaxed, prepared, warmed up, etc. So, with Boulevard, check my notes. By take 42, clear signs of progress. Some of the avoided notes were getting engaged. The phrase structure was more internalized than looked at. However, by that last take, because of the fact that it's now more of the song that I'm practicing, and I really was trying to get my body coordinated to do something that it's not really good at, physical fatigue had started to set in. It was very obvious that I had gotten to a point where I needed to basically say, I am done with this session for now. So the signs of fatigue for me, my breath control and management will slip. I'll find myself running out of air at the end of a phrase. Or if there's like a sustain at the end of the phrase, I'm running out of air. And over support kind of creeps in. As a result, the tone sounds darkened and manufactured. But I recognize these things now, so I'm able to basically say I'm hitting a point of fatigue, log my progress for the day, and come back later. So how do I stress what I take away from the primary session today? The voice jumping between targets, saying I'm on this note and now I'm going to be on that note. That has a sense of disengage. The voice needs to move continuously. It needs to have that support. And I'm not saying I want to glide from note A to note B, or I should say from note X to note Y. What I'm saying is maintain the connection. See the passage as measures in the song where you are moving from measure to measure to measure. It's all connected. Because if you break, if you pull the engine down for a moment and then bring it back up again, it's going to be very obvious. Secondary session for today, I went to be prepared. Now, a secondary session is always a refresher, so it may not go very long. And I like it intentionally minimal. I just want to be able to touch the piece so it stays fresh and stays with me every day. Honestly, I did a calibration take, and that was it. Be prepared. Being as though it was now later in the day, later in the morning, and I had had the warm up, and I had taken a small break after Boulevard. Everything was pretty much in good shape. A little re-warm up, and I just sailed through my be prepared. And I thought to myself, this is just a familiarity check. I'm not trying to fix or grow or extend or improve. So I said, okay, that's good. And I just basically said 111 is done. The interesting observation here was around low notes. Compared to in the morning and earlier in the day when all of those low notes would just come out and buzz and sing and just really be the kind of notes that people love watching and listening to in a video. They were gone. Now, by gone, what I mean is I wasn't really creating a sound. But internally, I knew I was doing it correctly. I knew I was supporting it. I knew I wasn't forcing it. I wasn't reaching down for it. And that was what was important to me, because if the placement is correct and there is at least resonance internal to me, that means at least I'm working the right way, and I need to figure out how to maintain the openness or potentially move my sessions closer to when I first wake up. So, as always, what you hear is not always what's happening. I do a take. I log, how did that take feel? What do I think happened? Then I go back and I play it, and as I'm playing it, I make notations and I connect the two. So yeah, one take, deliberate decision, no pushing, no chasing. It was there. Confirm that it was there. It's doing the same thing. I'm not losing anything majorly, and move on. That was today's sessions. Now, as people who've been keeping up know, I've been presenting information on a bunch of a cappella groups that are important to me, that I'm actively following and learning from. I've included my list in today's video description. If there's a group that you think I should be following and I'm not, please put it in the comments. I will take a look at them. There's one or two groups that initially I was like, I don't know if I really want to follow them, but ruling them out was sort of a misservice to my own work and learning. Now, looking at what's going on right now, I actually have something a little special, and that is from the Contemporary A Cappella Society of America, CASA. They released their 2026 recording awards today, and they also have a separate set they do for videos for a cappella. I actually saw, and I cannot remember the reference on this, so don't ding me if I'm wrong, that people have referred to the CASA Awards as the Grammys of a cappella. Again, I will find the reference for that just to make sure I'm not going off half-cocked. So CASA, for those who are not familiar, the Contemporary A Cappella Society of America, is one of the primary organizations supporting a cappella music. And the awards focus on the recording quality, the arrangement, the production. And rather than going category by category, I want to keep this focused on the groups I'm actively tracking. Now, one thing I can call out specifically from the results is that some of the groups I'm following picked up some wins, and I'm really happy for them. Bass Gang. I'm going to start with the Bass Gang because Boulevard is a piece I'm really working. They took home 2 awards for the same song. Blame It on the Boogie, which was a cover of a Jackson song from early in the 70s. They won Best Disco Song and Best Collaborative Song. So that was really great. Check it out. I will try at some point to get the links to these videos into a description. So after the Bass Gang, there was the Wellerman, and they won for Best Folk Album. Album or EP. And it was Northern Sky. Great piece to check out. Interestingly enough, if memory is serving me correctly, the Bass Gang and the Wellerman have the crossover member Bobby Bass. So it's nice to see Bobby get a good bit of recognition, but all of the members of these groups put in so much work. And the last one that I really wanted to call out, because as you can tell, I'm not 20 anymore. I mentioned in the title of this channel, I am 58. Rockapella is still going. For those who don't know, Rockapella was basically the house band for an educational program in the late 90s called Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Now, for some of you, that is now running through your head because that is how much it weaved into the cultural zeitgeist of the time. They did a cover of the Beatles' Come Together, and the video is incredible. So they won Best Video by a professional group and Best Rock Video. One last one that I'll bring up that I've added in recently is BYU. They have a group called Vocal Point. They had a pretty strong showing as well. They won for Wicked Medley and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. So I will include links in the description for the award results. That way, if you want to look into who they were competing with, what other categories there were, please go right to the source and check that information out. That covers what's going on, and as a result, that pretty much covers what I'm going to talk about for day 10. Today has ended up being a more focused day than yesterday. Less about pushing through time constraints and more about understanding how the system behaves when it's allowed to develop. Okay, biggest takeaway right now, not about hitting the note. It's not about starting the phrase, and it's about not breaking the motion in the first place. And as always, most importantly, it's you don't want to think about the song, you just want to ride the song, and you think about it during the rehearsal process. And what you're hopefully thinking about is color of tone, um, theatrics, because thinking about how am I going to reach the note, that's counterproductive. That's what you need to have ironed out and muscle memory. Um, it's a different way of thinking about it. As always, if you are following along, thank you. I really, really do appreciate it. I have been very surprised that in the first 8 days of 8 videos, I had 8 subscribers, and that really is humbling. If you're new and interested in this process that I'm going through, please subscribe. Likes and comments help. They let me know whether what I'm doing is useful or interesting. I'm not really playing the YouTube SEO game here. I know there are algorithms that if I get subscriptions, if I get likes, comments, etc., that's not important to me right now. The people who find me, that's great, and feel free to share it. I don't mind growing. I'm more interested in my journey and the process and sharing it. And as it grows bigger, I still want to focus on the journey. And I appreciate that those of you watching are joining me on this journey. So that is going to wrap up day 10. I will be back tomorrow with day 11. Again, thanks, and as always, later.